The Type 55, one of the most well-known and admired buses ever built by Icarus. But the Type 55 also had an urban twin. The bus was introduced with much fanfare in Budapest, only to end up as one of its biggest disappointments. This is the story of the Ikarus Type 66, the bus that lived in the shadow of its older brother. Hi, this is Jeffrey. Now, not too long ago, I did a video on the Ikarus Type 55 bus. Now, the Type 55 is a very big fan favorite, and its most outstanding feature, of course, is its very bulbous rear end that holds its engine. Now, the Type 55 also had an urban transit twin called the Type 66. Now, when the Type 66 was introduced in Budapest in 1959, it was introduced with a lot of fanfare and a lot of hopefulness for its use in the city that really needed new buses. However, this hopefulness turned to disappointment quite quickly, and so the Type 66 disappeared from Budapest within a few years. And so that's what we're going to look at in this video. We're going to take a look at the Type 66 and its service life in Budapest. It's quite an interesting story, so let's get started in learning about the Type 66 in Budapest. It was the bus that survived in the shadow of its more celebrated sibling. The first prototype of the Ikarus Type 66, originally known as A58, intended for urban traffic, was completed in 1952. But due to problems with the design of the third door behind the rear axle, the development of the A60 model, also known as the Type 55 for long-distance traffic, came to the fore. Another prototype of the Type 66 was built in 1956 before full-scale production started. A legendary epoch-making bus, as this is how the Ikarus 55 is often referred to, which for decades was a defining image of public roads not only in Hungary but also in the former GDR as well as the Soviet Union. Its urban transit sibling, the Ikarus 66, appeared on the streets of Budapest in 1959, only to quickly fail and disappear from the city's traffic scene. In the 1950s, Budapest's public transport system was struggling with a severe capacity shortage. Small, rather old buses and trams, as well as some trolley buses, tried to get people to and from work every day in an era when there were far fewer cars than today. The newest buses, the Ikarus 60s, were not very large, carrying a maximum of 60 people. Trailer buses were experimented with, but were considered dangerous. However, Icarus, under the leadership of Bela Zerkovits, then came up with a beautiful and out-of-necessity, self-supporting, rear-engined, large-capacity bus, the Ikarus 55 and 66. The contemporary press celebrated the new Type 66 vehicles as the saviors of Budapest. On March 22, 1959, the day of the premiere of the new buses, the newspaper Népszava saw the 20 Ikarus 66s that were just placed in service in Budapest as the new champion of pest transport. The newspaper, in keeping with the spirit of the times, wrote an entire heroic poem around the story in which workers wishing to celebrate the Council Republic are working hard to ensure that Budapest receives its 20 new buses. The extremely pseudo-realistic narrative, especially since it was written barely 2.5 years after the suppression of the revolution, highlighted the point. Budapest's transport system urgently needed more buses. Now, let's take a look at some of the general specifications of the Icarus Type 66. Number 1, length is 11.34 meters. Number 2, width is 2.5 meters. Number 3, height is 2.98 meters. Number 4, width of front and or rear doors is 88 centimeters, and the center door is 1.3 meters. Number 5, engine is the Sheppel D614.12, generating 145 horsepower. Number 6, the gearbox is a mechanical synchronized 5-speed. And number 7, passenger capacity is generally 40 seated with a 2+2 layout and 33 seated in a combined 2+1 and 2+2 layout. Other newspapers were a bit more restrained. On the day of the premiere of the Type 66, Neeps Zepitzag reported on the event with a picture and a short caption. 20 modern Icarus buses have been relieving traffic congestion on the Grand Boulevard since Saturday. The introduction of the comfortable large-capacity cars was a success. Indeed, instead of the previous vehicles with a maximum capacity of 60 passengers, the Type 66 was advertised to hold up to 120, although that seems somewhat unlikely. Probably its most special aspect, though, was their shape, and gained the nickname Pharos because of the rear engine design, just like its more successful older brother. The 20 buses were soon followed by another 55 vehicles. However, despite the fact that the Icarus buses excelled in the countryside and as long-distance forms of transportation, they did not work in Budapest. On the one hand, they were slow and had difficulty accelerating. On the other hand, despite being called giant, the people of Budapest found them cramped, a feeling that was heightened by the relatively small windows. They also found it very inconvenient that boarding and alighting through the narrow doors was very slow. The Budapest Metropolitan Bus Plant sold off 20 vehicles in 1962, while the remaining 55 were handed over to country and suburban bus companies in 1964. By then, the real rescue army had arrived, which were the articulated buses. However, the Type 66s did not disappear, and together with the Type 55s, they performed very well in the rural and foreign markets. 84 of the Type 66 buses were delivered to the Soviet Union, mainly for use in Leningrad, and more than 10,000 were delivered to the GDR, the latter being quite a stark contrast to its home country. Most production were of the two-door version. There are still quite a few of them today, both preserved and in various states of restoration. The Type 66, while introduced with much fanfare, simply could not attain the reputation of its near twin sibling in the city it was designed for. So there it is, the story of the Icarus Type 66 transit bus. Now, even though the Type 66 was something of a failure in Budapest, as it lasted only 3 to 5 years, it still remains an iconic piece of that city's transportation system, and its memory will not fade away anytime soon. So, anyway, I hope you enjoyed this look at the Icarus Type 66. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and have a great day. Bye.